Hello, Stamp Nation. I am Heather North, and most of you know me as one of the design team members for Stamp Nation. But today I am putting on my Casual Fridays hat and coming to you as one of Michelle's Girl Fridays. I have the great privilege of being the leader of the encouragement squad and the coordinator for the Calling All Sisters blog. Talk about that more in just a minute. But since this is a masterclass, I want to get right into the Cards with Sass class. So my card today is sassy yet classy. And that's how I think of the owner of Casual Friday Stamps, Michelle Gross. I had the great privilege of meeting her a couple of years ago. Gosh, maybe it's almost 3 years now. Anyways, she is one of the classiest ladies I have ever met. But once you know her, you find out that she's got a little touch of sass in her. And if you have seen her stamps and read the sentiments, you know exactly what I mean. So for my card, I am starting with the classy side, and I'm going to be stamping out flowers because what's classier than flowers, right? So I'm going to be stamping out my flowers. This is from the Pretty Posy stamp set by Casual Friday Stamps, and I'm using Midnight Ink and Catherine Pooler's paper. I wasn't exactly sure how watercoloring was going to work with her paper, but the technique I used today seemed to do pretty well. I'm going to stamp these flowers out several times and play with some of the different color variations and just decide in the end what I want to use. So I'm stamping out way more than I need, or at least a few more than I need. And I'll also be stamping out some of the leaves. Now that our stamping is done, we can move on to the watercoloring. You do not need to be an expert to do this. In fact, you don't even have to color in your lines. I encourage you not to color in the lines with this technique. Can you believe that? Yep. So I'm going to show you a couple different ways that you can color with your ink pads. So this is the Catherine Pooler Designs ink, and as you can see, some of the ink has gotten onto the lid. What I did was I just dipped my paintbrush into some water and then picked up that ink that's on the lid. My ink pad happens to be pretty dry. I've used this color a lot recently, so I'm just going to re-ink it and add some extra ink into the lid itself. And here you see, I used that same brush and picked up the ink from the re-inker, and it is a much deeper shade. So it's just a concentrated color. Start painting and just add more water as I need to. When I first started, I was trying to color within the lines, but then I realized, oh, the die that coordinates with the stamp set leaves a little bit of a white border, and I don't want that because I'm putting it on a white tag, and I thought, well, it's not going to show up if it has that white border. So I'm coloring outside the lines. How easy is that? I'm just by the third leaf you see here, I'm just scribbling it on. And then for the veins of the leaves, I decided I was going to use the same color. You could pick a darker shade, but this really stretches your ink by being able to use the same color. And I went with a number 2 brush. The other one was a number 4 round, and it's a really thin liner brush. And I'm going in with full concentration of that ink. So I have the brush a little bit damp, but I didn't add any more water. I'm going in full strength with that, with the ink. As always, you can play around with the coloring and shading by just adding more color, adding more water to make it lighter, more ink to make it darker, and you can add in just some depth and dimension by changing how much water you add to that ink. Are you guys ready for the blooper? Oh my gosh. So I picked up the lid to the Tiki Torch ink and of course dropped it right into my ink pad. I would leave bloopers in more often, but if I did that, my videos would last forever. I make so many mistakes while I'm stamping. And if you guys are ever watching other instructors and you think, oh, they're perfect, I'll never be as good as them, know that if you're watching me, there are bloopers happening all the time. They might not all make the cut, but they are there. So anyways, back to the class. Back to my teacher hat. This is the Tiki Torch ink, and I use my re-inker to just ink it up again because it is dry. It is very dry. And this time I'm going to grab my, it's just a gift card. I've used the gift card. There's no more money left on it. It's to my favorite quilt shop. And it's such a cute little gift card that I kept it. And you just want to use some light, even pressure to spread that ink around so that it's evenly across your pad. But those pads are made of foam and they can rip and tear easily. So you do want to be gentle. You can use any non-porous surface or any non-porous object. You could use your bone folder even to spread the ink. And then I'm going to put some of that ink into the lid as well so I can do my painting. Let me back up a second. I'm going to be using 2 colors or more on most of these flowers. And so in order to get the 2 colors, what I like to start with is the lightest color. I think I said that before with the leaves. I like starting with my light and then adding in shade. So in this case, that means I started out with Tiki Torch and I painted the center of my flower, forgetting that I wanted to scribble, because what I really want to do is just paint over the entire flower. You'll see me, figure that out in just a second. And then I grabbed Tutti Frutti and I'm just going to use that liner brush to outline the Tutti Frutti. Now, like I said, I want to color outside the lines and I forgot to do that. So I'm going to come in here and just blooper it all up again. Oh, you guys, I'm just having a day. It must be because I knew I was doing this for the class. So I knew I had to be all official, right? I mean, I'm teaching a class. There's so much pressure. Oh my goodness. And I then went all over it with the wrong color. I have no idea what I'm doing, you guys. I pretend I know what I'm doing, but sometimes I don't know. Anyways, I went over the entire flower with one color, and then I went back in with some of my darker colors. And I think here I just grabbed rock and red and decided to do rock and red. So I'm telling you, anybody, if I can do this, anybody can do this watercoloring technique. Now that you have the basic idea of how I color these flowers, I'm just going to speed up the video a little bit and finish up the different flowers in the different colors. I'll give you one more little tip. When you're mixing colors in the lid, and yes, you can mix the colors in the lid, I do like to take a wet wipe or a paper towel and just clean out my lid before I put it back on. That way I don't contaminate my ink pad. I wanted to lighten up that tiki torch a little bit, so I added in a drop of tiara into the lid. Like I said before, you can mix the colors, and this gives me a brand new color for my next flower. And I'm just going to apply that all over, and like I said, I will wipe off the excess ink before I put the lid on this one. This last color combination is just a little bit different. I'm not using different shades of the same color. I'm actually using two very different colors. I'm using Tutti Frutti as the base, and then I am adding in Flirty Fuchsia. The Flirty Fuchsia is a purpley pink, mostly purple, and it adds a deep shadow in the middle there. You see I'm just pulling it out from the middle. So you can play around with some colors. It's best to use colors that are next to each other on the color wheel when you're blending, but experiment and try and see what you come up with. While those pieces are drying, I am going to get to work on the card base. So I just took a piece of Post-it note tape and I'm lining it up with the fold line in the middle and putting it onto the back. That way I don't get any ink on the back of my card. And then I'm going to take Fiesta Blue ink and lightly sponge it over my card base. The beauty of doing stenciling is that I don't have to have perfect sponging of my card base because most of it's just going to be covered up anyways. And I'm going to end up putting a tag over this card, or the card base, I should say. So really, you don't have to stress over this. I guess that's my point. Perfection is not what you have to stress over. Yes, it's going to be a classy card, but we're adding in a little bit of sass. So we want to add in some variation, right? So here I've taken the Mod Flower Stencil, did I already say that? And I am using All That Jazz ink to stencil over this. This is a little bit darker ink. It's more of a aqua teal than a blue, and it just creates a nice calming contrast. And you can see I wasn't exactly even with my sponging. I wanted a little variation, and I just think that turned out so pretty. I love it. Is it okay to say that? Because I do. I love it. One tip for Post-it note tape is when you pull back the tape on itself. This will help keep your paper from tearing. So now I'm going to get a little bit inky, okay? This is where we're going to add in our little bit of sass. Are you ready? I just took a box of just an empty box. That one happened to be written on by I think by Ingrid. I'd have to look again. I don't know who else wrote on it, but two people did. And I'm just taking the Midnight ink, putting it into the lid of my Midnight ink, and I'm using an old paintbrush, and I'm just splattering it all over my card front. Now, you could cover the back of your card to make sure that it doesn't get all splattered, but I didn't do that. And I'm using just some latex gloves, well, one glove over my finger because I had something to go to that night and I didn't want to go in with black fingers. Here you see me pulling in those pretty posies, stamped and watercolored flowers, and I'm doing the same thing. I'm adding some of those black dots just to add a little bit of sass to my card. Just that little something that kind of grunges it up. Now here, I think I added some more water to my paintbrush or my toothbrush. You can't see it on camera, but by doing this, I got bigger splatters. So you can play around with this technique a little bit. If you want darker ink, then you just add more of the ink itself and less of the water. And hopefully you can see that catching in the light. Once your flowers are dry, go ahead and die cut them out. I used the Posies Fry dies and die cut both the flowers and the leaves. And I also cut out one of the Mary Label dies with some white cardstock. And now I am going to add in my sass. My sass comes from the Tag You're It stamp set. Now, I could say that the sass comes a little bit from those flowers. They're kind of like a free scribbly drawing. That's kind of why I did the free scribbly watercoloring. But the real sass comes from this sentiment, and it reads, You should know I'm secretly wishing this was mine. Don't you love it? Oh my goodness, you guys, you've got to check this Tag You're It stamp set out. There are so many cute, adorable, fun sentiments to add to any card or tag. All that is left for us to do is to just assemble the card. So I'm going to take the biggest flower and put it in the bottom right corner of my tag, and then I'm going to build up one side and out the other side with the remaining flowers and leaves. Then I'll pop up my tag using some dimensional adhesive. And there's my card with Sass. I hope you guys are enjoying this class. Before I go, I want to give a shout out and just let you know a little bit more about the Calling All Sisters blog. It's brought to you by Casual Friday Stamps. And I will include a link down below so you can read Michelle's story about how this all started. We give a reminder on the 17th of every month. We put a reminder post out to let you ladies know that it is time to check yourselves, do your breast self-exams, and schedule those yearly mammograms. On the 18th of the month, we have an encouragement challenge. So the encouragement squad comes in and we have several different cards as examples, and then we have a photo inspiration. You can use the picture or the colors to create your own encouragement card to send to somebody you know that's going through a hard time. Maybe they're going through a move or a stressful time at their job, or they're battling cancer, or whatever it is. We can all use a little bit of encouragement in our mailbox. So that is my card for today. I hope you guys are having a blast with this class, and I cannot wait to see what the other Girl Fridays have come up with. Thank you guys for watching. Bye.